Hello everybody, my name is Fred Brechtel. I'm the CEO of Brechtel Manufacturing, and today I'm going to talk about setting up and using our 80 vial auto collector that is normally paired with the particle and the liquid sampler. This unit on the bench looks like this from the front, pretty simple front panel here. And you can use this with both the 80 vial carousel as well as the 38 vial carousel. Now from the side you can begin to see more of what's going on. So typically this is shipping with the top cover. Top cover is removed so that I can show you some of the details of the inside. And you can see here that this unit has shipped with shipping padding here underneath the carousel. So before you use your unit, make sure that you take these out so that you can properly spin the carousel with the motor that's installed. I'm just going to leave this in here for right now. So, let me give you a basic rundown of what the key parts here of the auto collector are. So if you look at it from the top like this, you're going to see here the turntable. This is the piece that spins, and these three nuts, they go on and off to hold the carousel. The carousel is where you install, in this case, the 81 to 2 mil vials in each of these little positions. Normally the carousel just ships with a few vials installed, and it's up to you to install the vials that you want to use to collect your liquid sample. This housing here is the needle assembly housing. Inside is a linear motor that goes up and down that draws the needle in and out of the vial that's rotated underneath. Here you can see the small carousel motor, and there's a black belt down here that you can see that actually turns the carousel. And then here you can see a small electronics housing that has the motor controller board that's controlling both the rotary motor and the linear motor inside the needle housing here. Okay, so one thing you'll notice here, there's a water trap that is mounted to the inside of the back surface here, and it's just held on by a tie wrap. This is just held here temporarily for shipping. It's up to you to break off the tie wrap with some snips, and then there are two mounting bolts shipped in a bag that's tied to the outside of the water trap that you need to use to mount this assembly on this side. Okay, so let me show you the back panel here. So the mounting bracket of the water trap is going to mount to these two holes, and the water trap will hang right here outside the unit. Okay, the water trap, the purpose of the water trap is to make sure you have a spot to collect any liquid that is caught by the catch basin that's underneath the needle here. You see, it's right next to this vial. There's a small catch basin, and there's a small stainless steel tube sticking out the side right there that we're going to attach a drain tube to. Okay? That drain tube comes shipped with your tubing harness. Just looks like this, and you'll just slide it in here. I'll go ahead and tip this up for you, and I'm just going to slide it over this metal tube. Okay, just like that. So you can see this drain tube is now attached to the small metal tube that's sticking out of the drain basin. Okay, and this is going to install right into the water trap. Okay, so you can see the tie wrap here that you need to cut with a pair of cutters in order to remove the water trap. Okay? Then what you want to do is use these screws in the small plastic bag to mount the water trap so that it That's not good. Hey. No, I'm making a video right now. You should mount this so that the water trap is hanging on the back here and is locked in place. This tube will slide right into this fitting, and make sure you push it all the way in there so that it's nice and tight. Alright? So what's going to happen is you need to connect the vacuum tube harness that's shipped with your PILS that comes with this to this other fitting. Let me show you what that looks like. So your PILS is going to run with a vacuum pump that's going to use this 3/8 diameter plastic tubing. Okay? But what we'll do if you order an auto collector is we'll supply the harness with a splitter assembly here. This is just a T, and then it necks down with this reducing union through an orifice. This stainless steel tube has a small orifice in it, and then it goes to this tubing here. Okay? So this tubing wants to get pushed into the other side of the water trap. Make sure you push it all the way in, and you shouldn't be able to pull it out. Once it's slid in, this tubing should be held in place nice and tight. Okay? So when this is hanging here, then what will happen is as the drain gets full of water, water will be sucked through here and accumulate inside here, and it'll slowly get drawn out through here and into the vacuum pump. It's just a few mils per hour typically, so it's not a lot of liquid, but it gives us the ability to remove water from the needle drain basin while the auto collector is running and the liquid is just flowing directly into the drain basin. For example, maybe there are no vials installed, but the unit is running. Okay? So in order to have that drain properly, you need to use this vacuum hookup, and that will help you draw the liquid water out of the drain of the PILS. Okay, a few other things that you should be aware of. You see this PEEK tubing here. This is called PEEK tubing, this brown tubing. It's connecting to the back. There's a PEEK union right here. This is the tube that you will connect to the liquid sample out from the PILS. You can just slide the peri-pump tubing from the PILS. You can slide it right over this PEEK tubing, and it will hold tightly enough so that the liquid sample being pushed by the peri-pump out of the PILS will go through this PEEK tubing, and it will go into the needle. And then the needle will deliver the liquid sample to the vial based on your settings of the software. Okay, so we give you a few feet of this PEEK tubing. Try not to touch this with your hand because it will contaminate your sample, which you don't want to do. Okay, so this is the power supply for the auto collector. You'll want to take it out of the bag. It should come with the right AC power hookup for your country. You want to take this little plastic piece off. This should slide right in. Let's see, how does this slide in? Looks like it slides in like this. Okay, so in this case it's going to plug in sideways. This happens to be a Chinese one. And then this is the connector that plugs into the power input, this silver piece right here, okay, where it says 12 volt DC. All right, so you'll need to power that up in order for the electronics to work properly. Okay, then the next thing you're going to get is a USB to serial converter cable. Hold on a second. Alright, so one end is a serial connection, the other end is USB. And this connector will plug right into the serial connector on the PILS electronics, just like this. Just plug it right in there. Make sure you screw down these screw terminals on the connector here, nice and tight, so the connection doesn't come undone. And then this will go to your laptop or tablet, so that you can run our software, which is supplied on the USB stick with the manual, to actually communicate and control the rotation and the filling time of the auto collector. Okay? So, that shows you the electrical and data connections for your auto collector. Now let's go back to here and look at some details about installing and removing the vial collector. A couple things I want to point out. Right here, you'll see that there's an arrow cut into the metal of the turntable. And you'll see that this is the one wing nut that has a pin. There's a pin right next to it here. Okay? That's important to note, because when you take this assembly off, and here, all I'm going to do is just loosen this. Normally you wouldn't do this with the whole thing's sitting upwards, but this is how you have to take the carousel off. You take each one of these wing nuts off. Okay, it's called a wing nut. Okay. And then you see these handles here. These are the handles that you pull straight up on. Okay, I have to put this back down in order to do this. You just pull straight up, and then this carousel assembly comes out. So this is the carousel assembly that you can put down on a table, and you can install the little vials into each one of these little clamps. It just comes right out, okay? And then you just click it back in. It just clicks in, holds by friction, okay? So when you put this back in, one of the things that you need to note is there's only one of these holes that has this little pin location hole. So the carousel only goes in one way. And you have to find that pin when you reinstall the carousel. Alright? And then when you do that, you tighten it back up with the wing nuts. Just snug, doesn't have to be super tight, just hand tight so that it's not going to move when you operate the unit. Okay? So typically for the flow rates that you get out of the PILS, you can fill a 2 ml vial. You can do about a maximum 1 hour time sample. And so that means you can get 80 hours out of an 80 vial carousel. Alternatively, you can buy a 38 vial carousel, which are 12 milliliter vials, I believe. And there you can fill for 12 hours in each vial. So you could get up to about 19 days of continuous sampling before somebody has to come and change the vials. The other thing I'll note in the back here is this is a shock watch. All right. So this watch gives you an indication of whether or not the unit has been exposed to shock during shipping. If the arrows are red, that's good. That means no shock. If you see that these arrows are black, that means that the unit may have been dropped or may have otherwise experienced intense shock during shipping. If you get a unit and it has any of these black arrows back here, then you need to be sure and get in touch with us so that we can check out your unit, run it, and make sure that everything is working the way it's supposed to, even if it was exposed to a certain amount of shock during shipping. Okay, so just a few final notes. Be very careful. Underneath the carousel, there are some sensitive electronics underneath in here, and you don't want to be sliding metal pieces or hitting any of the optical sensors underneath here or in the back of the needle assembly here. That's not an area where you should really have to be getting into. So leave those alone unless instructed by a trained technician. Alrighty, so that's the PILS auto collector. Please get in touch. If you have any questions about the use, you can contact us at bmi_info@brechtel.com or just call us. Happy aerosol sampling.